Hey guys, we're in the EPI shop today, and we're going to show you how to change the clutch parts on the new Wildcats with the Team Industries clutches on them. We'll just give you a quick run through and show you how to do everything real quick and go from there. So the first thing we're going to do, we've already done some things here to kind of speed up it for the video, but you want to jack up the rear end just so the rear tire is just barely on the ground. I mean, so there's a little weight on there. And then what you want to do is pull your shock bolts out, remove your shock. You're going to want to take it all the way off. And then the next thing, you're going to want to remove the clamp on your vent line here, and you can just leave that loose. And then all the bolts are on your clutch cover and this little gold piece on the airbox bracket. Once you do that, all you got to do is usually just kind of lift up. That bracket will come off. All your bolts are loose here, and then it's just a matter of pulling this off. And you got to kind of fight with this bracket a little bit to get the cover all the way off, but just take a little bit of patience and kind of work it off. It does come out of there. When you pull this off, there'll be a gasket on here. Sometimes it'll stay on the machine, sometimes it'll be stuck to this. What we've also found on these Wildcats is there's a couple dowel pins in there, usually one here and one over here. They're typically run loose for some reason, so a lot of times they'll fall out when you pull them apart. So just kind of look for them, make sure you got them both in here. Ours are out and laying in our toolbox right now, but you'll need them, especially for putting the gasket back on and having everything in place. So just be careful of that. And then this will get you to the new style clutches on the Wildcat. This is going to be your primary clutch or your drive clutch. This will be your secondary clutch or the driven clutch. And it's just a matter of taking all these apart, and we'll show you how to do that. Alright, if you guys need to change the belt on the trail, the easiest way to do is when you pull this bolt off, the outer half of the clutch will come off. You can slide the belt on and off, and you're good to go. If you're not changing the belt, or if you want to take the primary clutch off, we'll kind of start by doing that. What you can do is you can put a screwdriver in this slot here. That opens up the clutch, and you can just push the belt down on it, and you can either pull the belt completely off or just force it down in the clutch, and that'll leave it slack in there. Then you'll need it's a T60 Torx bit to fit in here, and a small bar. Again, you just got to be careful where you're putting it through and what you're catching everything on, so you don't wreck nothing. And just kind of break these loose. Actually, on this one, I forgot it's left-hand thread. And typically, you don't want to use an impact wrench on these. I just loosen the bolt, unthread it out. Again, it's left-hand threads on this one. This is one thing you normally, most clutches will have some type of space in there. Make sure that comes out, otherwise that'll make it so you can't get the puller in there, or you'll smash it in there when you thread the puller in. So make sure that comes off. You want to take the clutch puller. This is EPI puller, PCP 14, and just thread that in. And this is actually right hand threads, because it goes into a different set of threads than what your clutch bolt does. You just want to thread it in by hand till it gets tight, and then just tighten up till it pops off. Sometimes it'll be easier, sometimes it'll be harder, but it'll pop it off like that. Alright, usually it's easier if you pull the clutch puller all the way off, or out of the clutch, and then again with the belt is loose, or if you got the belt all the way off, that works easier too. But the belt is, we pried open the clutch, the belt is loose in here. So you just kind of work it out. Pull it off and there's your primary clutch. Alright, we got the clutch and the clutch press now. If you don't have that, you can do the same thing just by kind of holding down evenly on the clutch cover. And as you're holding it down, because you're holding the force of the spring down, you want to remove all these bolts. It's really nice if you got another person there and you don't have a clutch press, just one person hold it down, the other one take the bolts out. When we pull them out, that'll drop off. And before you pull everything apart, you always want to make a X or some type of mark on there, so everything's going to line up properly and go back together with the same way it came apart. We put an X here, here, and here, so it's nice and easy. Some of the clutches will be marked on them, some don't. That way you just know you're safe. Then what you do is just let it up nice and slow and even so you don't damage the bushing. That comes off. Move the spring. And then it also gives all the tension off so we can change the weights. We'll show you one on the quick weights here. They're pretty easy. Just take an Allen wrench. And just pull that out. You remove the stock weight. This is what the new weight looks like on them. On these, I don't know if you've seen it when we pull it apart, but we'll show you. They actually have one of these on both sides of the weight. It acts like kind of like a bushing in there. So you make sure you don't lose them when you pull it apart, and make sure you put them back in when you reassemble. Alright, so when you have this apart, it's always a good time to clean it, blow it out with an air hose. This one's brand new, so it's nice and clean, but usually you'll see all kinds of black dust. It might be dirty and gray and stuff. Blow it out with an air hose really good. You can take some real light sandpaper or like a Scotch-Brite or something like this and just kind of scuff up and down where the belt rides. You don't want to put deep grooves in it, but you want to just kind of get the shininess off there, and that'll get all the belt glazing off and grip your belt tighter for you. The other thing you want to inspect whenever you got them apart is make sure this is a bearing in here. You want to make sure it turns freely both directions. If that's starting to catch or hang up, it'll end up chewing up your belt for you and giving you other issues. Once you get that done, to put a weight back in, this is one of the new prototype weights from EPI. To throw that in there, the easiest way is to start put the bolt in and kind of start putting that little first washer on. It might be kind of hard to see in the video here, but and then get the weight in there, and then stick this one in place, and you got to kind of work it back and forth a little bit, and usually it goes in fairly easy. If you just got to wiggle around, every once in a while it'll catch on the thing. If you just kind of turn it a lot of times, it'll go. If not, you might need a little screwdriver or pliers or something to just kind of move around. Sometimes it drops down too far and you just got to pull it up because it hits on the threads. This one's being a pain, so there we go. So we got her in, and it's just the opposite of doing it. You just tighten this up. Whenever you do that, you always want to make sure that it's moving freely on there. Everything can turn, and then to repeat the process for the other weights, and you're good to go. Alright, then to put the spring in, obviously just put it in there, make sure it's seated in there. Put the cover plate, make sure you got it lined up. Again, we put the X's on there. Some of these will have an X from the factory to line up on there. It's just a safety check just to make sure it's all the same because they are balanced. And then you know, while I'm using the tool here, which makes it nice and easy for one person, otherwise if you got a buddy there, have you compress it. If you just start putting a bolt in and cranking it down, you're going to tilt it and you could damage this bushing in here. So, but then it's just a matter of tightening up the bolts. And once those are in, it's done. Alright, so we got the primary clutch off. Now we're going to work on the secondary. It's a matter of the easiest way to do this. A lot of times you just put the machine in park, that holds it good enough to where you can undo this bolt. This one is right hand threads. It's just a matter of breaking it loose. When it comes off, you gotta watch, because there's some washers on the back side of here, and that'll change different settings and stuff. So you want to make sure whatever comes in there, pull off, make sure they're not stuck in there, make sure you don't lose them on the ground or anything else. So once you pull that off, keep track of that and a mental note in it, and then this outer half will just come off. Again, if you have both clutches on, you just need to change your belt. This is one way to do it also. You can just pull that off, other one in there, put it back on, and you got it done. But otherwise, once you pull that off, pull the belt off, and then the rest of the clutch will come off. You gotta fight that stupid vent line again. Once you get it off, the spring is locked in there with the helix bolts, so that's under tension. We'll show you how to take that apart. But this is what you got. It's kind of weird looking, especially compared to the old style clutches I used to run on the Wildcats, but it's the new team design. Alright, so here's the back half, that secondary clutch. This is the CCT 510 from EPI. It's a clutch compression tool, works on a lot of different clutches, works great on this one too. What you want to do is thread the first nut on there with a washer. Leave it 1.5 inches or so from the bottom, and then what will happen is it'll rest right on this bushing here. And slide it down, just make sure it's seated properly, and then what you want to do is just slide down the lock collar. The washer and the nut, just thread that down tight to it. And you don't want to crank on this, you just want to get it so there's some pressure, just a slight tension on it. Just like that. And then when you remove these 4 bolts that hold in the helix, I think it's a T30. And then when you pull this off, the spring and the helix will come out at the same time. Unlike some other brands and stuff, everything comes out at the same time. It's just a matter of loosening these up. Alright, so we got all 4 bolts out, and then what you want to do is just slowly let this come up. And what you'll see is here's the helix. It's a nice lightweight helix. And then here's the rollers. Sometimes when you pull it off, these will come apart. You just got to put it back together. There's a rubber dampener in there, and that just kind of floats freely with the spring in the helix. And then here's your spring. And then to put it all back together, it's just a matter of, you know, just doing the reverse process. We'll show you that. One thing, while you have it apart like this, it's a good time again to clean the clutches just like you would on the primary. You know, if they're shiny and all glazed over, take a light emery cloth or sandpaper and just kind of, no deep grooves or anything, scuff it up, clean it up really good, put it back together. Put it back together, throw the spring in, and then your roller. Make sure that's seated in there. And then for your new helix, and you want to make sure that obviously the rollers are going in the hole of the helix. And then put this back on and tighten it up. Again, you want to go nice and slow. You don't want to just put an in patch or anything weird on it, because if you tighten it too fast, you could damage the helix or the clutch. And you just kind of guide it down. Make sure your holes line up. If it binds up or something, just back off and realign it. And then just go from there. This one actually got off just a little bit as far as turn of the clutch. And it's set. And then I'd recommend putting a little bit of blue Loctite on these. They don't come with Loctite on the factory, but my personal recommendation would be do that so they don't back off on you. And then just tighten up your 4 bolts. And as soon as they're tight, you just back off this collar and you're going to be done with the secondary. Alright, one other thing is when you're going to put the clutches back together, this is the back side that would slide on the machine first, so you don't actually see it, but there's a big X there. And then this is the outer half, and there's also an X right there. So you kind of want to use that for alignment marks when you put everything together. You know, whether you put the clutch together as a whole or you slide them on separately, but here's the X's. Another good way to do that is just put an X on each outer half here, because it's either going to be there or it's going to be 180 off the way the rollers fit in there. But just another thing to line up when you put everything together. Once you're at this point, then it's just a matter of sliding the clutch onto the machine. I think I'll just do the back half first. You gotta kind of move this ventiline around a little bit. And once you get it on there, it's just a matter pushing it in. Alright, so got the belt going the right direction. Slide it over the center hub of the clutch there. And then slide the outer half of the clutch on. And everything should go on there. Then it's just a matter of tightening up to the factory specs for the torque. Again, oops, let me show you. Make sure that you got these little washers on there. This one has 2 of them. That might vary by the year of the model and stuff. Put that on. And this one is right hand threads. So that's torqued down. This is somewhat loose. If for some reason the belt gets a little bit tight on you and you want to loosen up so you got more room to work on the primer, you just shove the screwdriver in that square slot and just pull it down in the clutch, and that'll give you a lot more working room there too. The looser that belt is, the easier it will be to get on the primary clutch. Primary clutch, one other thing to do on these is make sure it's clean, and then also just wipe out this taper if it's all rusted or corroded. Just kind of clean up really nice. Same thing with the taper on the crank. And then just put your primary clutch on like that. Put on that. Thread in your bolt, make sure you got the little spacer in there. Make sure the belt isn't hitting on the outside of the cover anywhere. And then thread this in. Remember, this is left-hand threads. And you tighten this down to factory specs. And what you want is, again, a small bar, a little screwdriver. Big thing, and I don't know if you can see this on the camera or not, you don't want to stick it in this area because these plastic buttons slide up and down in here, so you don't want to put any, scuff marks or ridges or scratches in there because that'll just wear out your plastic buttons. So you want to make sure you're on the outside of those towers when you put your bar through your clutch, and then be able to hold it someplace or another. And just tighten it down to factory torque, and you're pretty much done. I'm going to slip it neutral fast. What you want to try to do too is, see how the belt's kind of loose and it might be hung up on the outside there. Just kind of re-spin the clutches, and that'll help reset it a little bit. And that way, it's a good way to check your belt, make sure it's not, worn too loose or anything like that. And then once we're done there, it's just a matter of putting your clutch cover back on, which again takes a little finesse and a little patience, which sometimes I have, sometimes I don't. For the speed of the video, we didn't put the gasket on, but make sure your gasket's on there and those two little pin locators. And then you bolt this together. Make sure you put it on this bracket to hold on your vent. There's the gold bracket up here. Goes up, helps hold the air box up. Tighten up your vent line. And then slide bolt in your shock, tighten everything up, you're good to go.